Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's reading vlog. So this reading vlog is going to run from the 1st to the 5th because on the 6th, we start Polarathon. I'm very, very excited for the week-long Polarathon. I will be spinning as I go, so I have no idea what I'm going to read that week. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm going to read this week. I guess my two most likely candidates are deciding whether I want to continue reading Keeper of Enchanted Rooms, because its genre does not feel like the cozy fantasy I was hoping for and feels more bordering on horror, and I don't like horror, so I don't know that I'm going to come back to this. And then hopefully at some point finishing Daughter of the Moon Goddess. We will see. I'm on page 214. I'm about halfway through, or almost halfway through, and I'm really enjoying this, so hopefully I will be picking this back up. I'm struggling because I don't know what I'm going to be reading for Polarathon because I'm going to spin the wheel as I go. So I keep looking at my books going, do I really want to read that when it might be perfect for a Polarathon prompt? So I'm kind of not touching anything because I don't want to read something that is going to make, you know, Polarathon easier for me and me to go, oh, that book would have been perfect for this prompt. Why did I read it in the last 5 days? So I don't quite know what I'm going to read. I suppose we'll see. It's going to depend on what strikes my mood at any given moment, because I think, again, I'm going to have to play it by ear. But hopefully I can get a good chunk of reading done, because I might have to go off TBR for Polarathon, because I don't think I have a single polar fantasy on my TBR. Which means if I spin that, I'm definitely going to have to go off TBR. I think I have an ebook that's a polar fantasy, and I have, it's like A Very, Very Long Way North or something like that. Both of which I bought with Polarathon in mind, so if it comes up, I have a couple of options that I actually own. So hopefully it won't come up too much. I have no idea how many books I'm going to read next week, but they're all going to be prompted by the spinner wheel for Polarathon. But that doesn't really help me this week. So we will see what I get up to. I'm thinking maybe one of my chunky adult fantasies, because I have Assassin's Quest, I think it's called, which is the third book in the Farseer trilogy. I have the third book in the Lycanis trilogy. I have the fourth book in the Dandelion Dynasty. I have the next book in the First Law series. All of those are probably ones I won't pick up during Polarathon, just because of the fact that I want to see how many books I can get through, and those will massively slow me down. So maybe I will pick up one of those and see if I can't get through one of those in the first 5 days, just to kind of give me a bit of a head start on reading my chunky fantasies, because I don't know that they're going to fall into Polarathon. But we'll see. Like I said, a lot of it's going to be playing it by ear. Hopefully, though, I can find something to read and make a decent dent in my TBR before I get to Polarathon, because, like I said, I'm going to be going off-brand, I'm sure. But yeah, I think that's going to be the main focus, is seeing what I can get to and what kind of strikes my fancy, and kind of enjoying the fact that at the beginning of the month, I may have a set TBR, but I also have the most freedom to mood read, because usually my TBRs are pretty eclectic, so I kind of had a little something to everything. It's more towards the end of the month that I start to get frustrated, because it's like, I really want to read a historical fiction, except there's none on my TBR. Or I really want to read a cozy mystery, but there's none on my TBR. Or there are only cozy mysteries on my TBR, and I don't want to read a cozy mystery. So the beginning of the month is fun because I have a lot more options. So we'll see what I get up to, and I will check back in with you all soon to let you know what I've gotten up to. Monday, which means it's time to wrap this vlog up. This was a very interesting start to February with Polarathon happening this coming week. I kept looking at my TBR going, well, I don't want to read that because that would be perfect for this prompt if I spin it. And I don't want to read that because that would be perfect for this prompt if I spin it. So I basically ended up reading a bunch of nonfiction. First, I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy, and I gave this book 5 stars. Jennette McCurdy is an actress, and this is her autobiography, and I had heard nothing but good things about it, and they are all well-deserved. She had a really, really messed up childhood, and it was fascinating to read about, and my heart broke for her multiple times throughout the story. I thought she told her story in an extremely interesting way, and I liked how open and honest she was about her life. It's a really, really brilliant read and is definitely worth all the hype. Then I read a bunch of Who HQ books. So first I read What Were the Negro Leagues? And I gave this book 4 stars. This focuses on, well, the Negro League. So there was a point in time when white people didn't want to play baseball with black people, so they started their own baseball leagues. And we get to hear the story behind that, hear about some of the famous players, and I thought it was a really interesting read. I had no idea that it was that extensive and there were that many teams, and kind of how it came about and how long it came about and how it kind of ended. So I thought that was a really interesting look into a point in Black history that I didn't know anything about. Then I read What is Juneteenth? And I'm giving this 4 stars. In the last couple years, Juneteenth has become much more noticeable. It wasn't until the last few years that I had even heard of it. So it's interesting to hear the origins of Juneteenth and kind of have a better understanding of why it is celebrated, why it's a holiday, why people are now talking about it again, like why it has come back around. So I thought that was another very informative nonfiction. Then I read What Was Reconstruction? And I gave this 4 stars. This, again, is another time period that I didn't quite know much about. There were definitely some things that angered me because it's such a tricky period in time. And this happens after Lincoln is murdered, and that is such a tumultuous time period because Black people have just earned their freedom. They are no longer forced to be slaves to the white population, and they're trying to gain their feet. And it's just interesting to see how the immediate aftermath of that all played out. And again, I think it's a good basis, and it makes me want to learn more about the time period. And I think these are, again, really good, kind of shining a spotlight in a very simple way that gives you a basic understanding of the topic at hand. And I definitely would recommend these to middle graders because they're very informative. And then the last one I read is What is Black Lives Matter? And I give this 4.25 stars. So I really, really enjoyed this one. It's much, much shorter than the other ones I read, but it was so interesting to learn about the 3 people who kind of pioneered the Black Lives Matter movement. And to me, it is synonymous with 2020, but it actually started much earlier. So it was very, very interesting to see its origins and how it's kind of grown and changed over the years. And it'll be interesting to see how this gets updated in years to come, because hopefully we will continue to make progress in that regard to hopefully get to the point where we don't need to remind people that Black Lives Matter. But I thought this was very, very informative, and it was quite interesting to learn about the origins behind it. So all in all, I really enjoyed my 4 Who HQ books that I read about different instances in Black history. Then I read Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton, and I'm giving this 4.25 stars. This is so tricky to talk about because he is obviously most well known for playing Draco Malfoy in the series that should not be named. And I have such a complicated relationship with that series because there was a time I absolutely adored it. And obviously after the author's vile comments and the doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on said comments, I no longer look at it the same way. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized some of the issues with the series, and I can't look at it with a childlike innocence anymore. However, I don't think that that necessarily should play into my relationship with somebody like Tom because, well, he didn't know that she was going to come out and say these vile things years after he finished filming. So I thought it was quite interesting to see his story, to learn how he ended up getting to the point where he played Draco, to hear some of these stories from the set. He tells a really, really great one about Alan Rickman, and I really enjoyed the one, not that he doesn't tell multiple stories about Alan Rickman, but there was a very, very specific one he told that really made me chuckle. He does have a way with words, and there are several times throughout the book where I chuckled on how he told a particular story. And there is a whole point of life, like post him filming that series, where it was so interesting to see what happened to him afterwards. And there was some stuff I didn't even know. So I really enjoyed the way this was kind of written, even though I have a complicated relationship with the series that caused him to be famous. I still enjoyed getting to read about his time on set and his life outside of said series, so I quite enjoyed it. And then the last book I finished is History Smashers: The Mayflower. So this is another series of middle grade nonfictions, and this one focuses on, well, the Mayflower. And it was interesting to see all of the different things about the Mayflower kind of get debunked in the Pilgrims and their time in the United States and kind of how they settled, because there were a lot of inconsistencies with these stories, we know, and I kind of like that this series is all about giving us more of the true story and less of the kind of cliches that we've heard. So I feel like I learned quite a bit in this book because, again, some of the cliches are not accurate. So it was quite interesting from that regard. I gave this book 4 stars. It is another, I think, going to be quite interesting middle grade nonfiction series, and another one I will be recommending to the little ones in my life. So those are all the books I finished. I didn't get back to Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I wanted to, but I literally went, well, I don't want to pick this up because I'm going to stay up and read it. So I'll start I'm Glad My Mom Died, and then I'll get back to it. But then I ended up staying up and reading I'm Glad My Mom Died, and it kind of put me on a nonfiction kick. So I haven't gone back to Daughter of the Moon Goddess, though I do want to, because I was really enjoying it. I did decide that I was going to DNF Keeper of Enchanted Rooms. I haven't had any desire to pick it up, and yeah, I've just got so many books on my TBR that I'm actually excited to read that it doesn't make sense to continue to read this one. So I'm going to DNF it. And then the only other update I have is that I've started Assassin's Quest. I'm on page 254, so I'm making some decent progress. I don't think I'm going to get back to this week because I want to read as many books as I can during Polarathon, and one, I will feel like I'm cheating because I've already started it, even if that's not the case, because, I mean, it's not like I won't have an entire book there. Like, an average-sized book, I should say. Like, I definitely have at least an average-sized book left there. But two, because that's just a lot to try to squeeze in, and I want to see how many books I can get through. So yeah, I'm enjoying seeing what's going on with Fitz in this one, and I'm very curious to see how this trilogy wraps up and how kind of Fitz's story wraps up. And yeah, so far so good. So yeah, I started my month off with a bunch of nonfictions because I couldn't bring myself to read anything else on my TBR because I was worried it would fulfill the prompt and I would go, well, crap. So I mean, I enjoyed the start to my February, so even if it is a entire nonfiction start to the month, at least I enjoyed everything I read, so I can't really complain. So that's it for this week's vlog. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me baseball emojis in honor of the Negro Leagues. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!